right, and good afternoon, and welcome back to Thursdays with Charlie. This is episode 72. It's the 7th of October, 2021. My gosh, 72 episodes. We really have been at this for quite a while. But we're aiming for 100, and then we'll decide after 100 if we want to continue at the same frequency or how we want to do it. Well, you're going to be the first to find out. People have been asking, are we going to do a Christmas party this year? We didn't do one last year because of COVID, so we've been working on it, and I was finally able to get confirmation from the Riverside that we will have our Christmas party. The date will be Friday, the 10th of December, 2021. Friday, December the 10th, and it will be in the Starview Room. We still have some things to iron out, though. We don't know if the mask mandate will be in effect at that time. We're not sure what the distancing requirements will be. We're not sure on the seating requirements, whether we'll be allowed to have 10 at a table like we have done in the past. But we're going to get those ironed out over the next couple of days. Hopefully within a week or two, we can give you the final details and how it's going to be run. But we have a date, the 10th of December, 2021, the Christmas party. Most likely we'll plan on our usual starting time around 5:30, dinner at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock showtime, and then about 8 o'clock, 8:15, we'll do some raffles and wish you all a good night. Looking forward to it very much. It's a sign of coming back from COVID, and we're hoping to have a really good turnout. I don't know what the status is on our Canadian visitors, whether they can freely travel through that northern border or not, and I'm not sure how many of the snowbirds are planning on coming back, but I sure hope a lot of them will be. And then we have our regular body of people who are here all year round. We'll look forward to making this a great Christmas celebration. The other question we've been getting is, when is the Mass book going to open for 2022 Masses? My gosh, 2022 already. We are going to open the Mass book for making reservations for Mass intentions in 2022. We're going to do that on October the 13th. It's a week. It's this coming Wednesday. It's after the weekend, after the dedication. We're going to then open the Mass book at 8 o'clock in the morning, and it'll be over here. We'll follow the same pattern we have followed in past years, which means on the day it opens, you may come in person, and you can make the intentions for up to 5 Masses on that day. You can make those arrangements. After that day, we will take requests by mail as well. The donation for a Mass, the stipend, is $10 per Mass, and that can be given and should be given at the time the Mass is booked with us. And so we'll have that all lined out and ready to go on the 13th of October for Masses in 2022. Might be a good time to kind of think about people's birthdays coming up, anniversaries of a person's death in your family that you might want to remember on specific dates, and we will accommodate them as well as we can. We'll also keep up the idea that we have been doing on the first Friday of the month, of each month that has a first Friday, which is all of the months. We will have Mass for multiple intentions. So that Mass on that first Friday of the month may be shared by a number of other intentions, but it is a way to make sure that within a month you could have a Mass intention said for anybody you are requesting one for. The other question we've been getting has been about the Christmas stockings for the troops. Every time I have called to check on the hospitals or the USOs or the military bases that we normally had given stockings to, the question is, we don't know yet, or rather that's the answer. The question is, are you going to accept the Christmas stockings? And so we don't know yet. I'm going to try to get that answer as quickly as possible. Definitely before the end of October we will have it. But as of right now, there's still so much concern on the federal level and the state level about the COVID virus, that we're not sure that places that normally would accept our stockings happily and gladly share them may not want stuff coming in from the outside that they have not had control over from the very beginning. We will pass that information on to you as soon as possible. We have a number of stockings that have been given to us already. Those stockings we are able to store now that we have the storage room in the Garces Center. So if it turns out that we cannot do the stockings this year, we will save them and use them next year. Any items that are donated, if we're not going to be able to get them to the troops, we will share with the Colorado River Food Bank, so they will go to supply people's needs. It will just be in the local area. But don't give up on the troops yet. We still haven't gotten a definitive answer. You all know that the Garces Center dedication is this Sunday. That's 2 p.m., Sunday of Columbus Day weekend, October the 10th. And tickets are still available. They are $5 each. We ask that you take care of purchasing them either at the office during this week or at the masses this coming weekend, so that we don't have to be dealing with ticket counts at the door. It also will help us for seating. We're going to set up the number of seats we need. We don't want to have to be rearranging that at the door with all our guests present. And I think I've mentioned in the past that Columbus Day weekend is already a special weekend for our parish. It's the weekend on which our church building, the wonderful church we have on the top of the hill here, St. John the Baptist, was dedicated by the bishop, and that was in 2003. And it was October the 11th. So almost to the day, we're dedicating our second building on the campus, and it matches so beautifully, and it will be a beautiful, beautiful celebration. We're looking forward to a good crowd. I will be there, of course, with both our deacons, Deacon Richard and Deacon Dan. Bishop Thomas will be there. Most likely, Bishop Gordon is coming along also. Father John McShane confirmed with me this week that he's intending to be with us for that. It's so great to have the priest who founded our parish be still able to come and share with us in these celebrations. And Father McShane, Father John, has certainly a great love for Father Garces and for history in general. So having him with us for this momentous event is a wonderful thing. The governor of Nevada, Steve Sisolak, will be with us, as well as the soon-to-be author of the book 52 Masses, Daniel Markham, will be with us. I'm going to ask Daniel to say a few words at the dedication about his project of writing this book, 52 Masses. It won't be a long presentation, but just to give you an idea, we're the church selected to represent the whole state of Nevada. But there's one church in every other state, as well as in Puerto Rico and the District of Columbia, that was chosen for that honor. And he's going around the country and visiting these places. And we're very fortunate that he'll be with us for the weekend of Columbus Day. And we'll have both the bishop, maybe the auxiliary bishop as well, and the governor, the founding priest here from our parish, as well as the current people from our parish here. We look forward to it being a really, really nice weekend. Last weekend was October the 3rd, and it was the day before the feast of St. Francis of Assisi, the patron saint of animals, the patron saint of loving all things that God has created, people, animals, plants, creation itself. And so it is traditional in Catholic parishes to bless animals, pets, and farm animals on that day. Deacon Richard and I did the blessing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon over here, and looking at it, we had about 22 dogs, and we had one cat. So we can definitely say that St. John the Baptist has gone to the dogs this St. Francis celebration. They were really good. It was kind of nice to see them. The animals, the dogs and the cat, were surprisingly quiet during the words of the blessing and the readings that we did. It was almost as if St. Francis is right. They're listening when the word is being preached to them. And then individually, we blessed each animal, each dog, and the cat with a little bit of holy water and the sign of the cross, learning their names, getting to see them, look into their eyes, and see the joy on their owners' faces as they brought them forward for the blessing. It was a beautiful day, a beautiful afternoon here in paradise, and so we got to share it with a number of pets and their owners as well. The month of October is known for two basic things in the Catholic tradition. It's known as the month of the Holy Rosary, so we honor Mary during the month of October, particularly as Our Lady of the Rosary. And it's also Respect Life Month, a day on which we pay special attention to our Catholic teaching that all life is sacred from the moment of conception. It's not a question anymore. It's not a theory. It's what our doctrine says. We believe that life begins at conception. And so from that moment on, we have scriptural basis for it. We certainly have tradition base for it. It's been a constant teaching of our Catholic Church. And I think as Catholics, we should be really proud of that tradition. It's not one that has swayed back and forth over the years. It's one that has been constant from the scriptures to the writings of the church fathers, through the teachings down through the centuries, through the teachings of the popes, right up to our current Pope, Pope Francis, who has, over and over again stated that abortion is homicide. Abortion is murder. It's the killing of a child. It's obviously against the eternal law of God. It's also against the commandment, thou shalt not kill. It's something that no Catholic should participate in any way, shape, or form. And so that applies to people who have an abortion done on them, perform the abortion, promote the idea of abortion, or make it possible. Catholics should separate themselves from those sinful, gravely sinful activities. And as Americans, we should never let our government impose on us paying for other people's abortions. We should never let that become a government policy where we're required to pay for the horrible, brutal act of abortion through anywhere in our country or anywhere in the world for that matter. Respect Life Month October reminds us of the importance of respecting all human life from the moment of conception. There are many feast days that occur in October, particularly in early October. I mentioned some of them at Mass this past weekend. Saint Therese, the Little Flower, or Saint Therese of Lisieux, the way some people pronounce it also. I'm not really sure which is the more correct pronunciation. But she was a Carmelite nun. She died, I believe, of tuberculosis in her 20s. She wanted to be a missionary so very, very badly, and yet because of her illness, because of her age, she never got to travel much outside of her native France. She said very famously, I intend to spend my heaven doing good upon the earth. What a beautiful thought. I intend to spend my heaven doing good upon the earth. Then on the 2nd of October, the very next day, last Saturday, we honor the guardian angels. We honor the fact that God has appointed these created spirits to take care of each one of us. Some angel has a job of taking care of each one of us, and that's his or her or its, however you want to view the angels, personal job throughout eternity to watch out for us. I think I'm very grateful. Sometimes probably give my angel a hard time watching and getting that job done. But it's worthwhile and it's beautiful. It's one of those signs of how much God cares for what he has created and who he has created. Of course, this past Monday, we celebrated the feast of St. Francis of Assisi, the great lover of all creation, animals, plants, inanimate creation, even the beauty of nature. He even speaks in one of his writings of brother sun and sister moon, and he describes the planets as he sees them. He had a joyful disposition. He had a great outlook on life. He had a great way of just being present to other people. And I love his statement, preach the gospel and if necessary, even use words. It's our actions that are so important in preaching the gospel. And coming up next week, on the 11th of October, we have the feast day, a relatively new feast day, of Pope John the 23rd, now Saint John the 23rd. He was known as Good Pope John. Back in the early 1960s, he became Pope in 1958, and he lived until 1963, so he was only Pope for about 5 years. But he's known and remembered for his jovial nature, his joyful spirit, and also he's the Pope that called together the Second Vatican Council. The first one was in 1870. He called the second one. And the story is told that when he announced, "I intend to call a council in 2 years," the cardinal said to him, "Holy Father, you can't possibly do it in 2 years." He said, "Okay, we'll do it next year." He just had this attitude of, "I'm going to do this," and the Holy Spirit definitely worked through him in accomplishing so very, very much. He's known by the nickname Good Pope John because he was just kind of likable, loved by people who came into contact with him. His feast day is October the 11th. Today, we celebrate a very special feast day in our church. It's the 7th of October, and it was the feast originally Our Lady of Victory, and then it was felt that we should extend that so it became Our Lady of Victories, plural. There are many victories credited to Our Lady. When I was back in New Jersey and teaching high school, the parish I would assist at on weekends to help out and give them an extra priest there on the weekend was Our Lady of Victories in Harrington Park, New Jersey. We're very, very proud of the fact of all the victories for the good of souls, for the good of creation that Mary has won. Commonly, it's also known as Our Lady of the Rosary. And so for the month of the Holy Rosary, October 7th, today's very feast day, is considered very, very special. And the date is very, very special. It's significant. On the 7th of October in 1571, there was a very famous naval battle that took place. It's remembered as the Battle of Lepanto. And I'd like to just set the scene a little bit of how that came about. The year was 1571. Prior to this, the Ottoman Empire, the Muslim Empire coming out of Turkey, had taken over much of the Mediterranean. In fact, much of North Africa was already in control of the Ottoman Empire. They had gotten as far as Cyprus. They had almost gotten into Greece and were working their way towards Italy. And it seemed to be that the plan was they were going to take over the whole Mediterranean and then spread into Europe and obliterate Christianity from Europe. The Pope at the time was a man by the name of Pope Pius V. And Pope Pius V, several years earlier, had put together a League of the Nations. It was called the Holy League. And he put it together in comprising the Spanish Empire, a lot of the Catholic heads of state that were in southern Europe, and much of the Papal States, which at that time would have been much of what is known as Italy. Some of the bigger cities in Italy were run like separate countries, and so he also involved the cities of Venice, of Genoa, of Milan, and of Naples, which were all operating as separate individual countries for it. And put together the Holy League specifically to make sure that the Ottoman Empire, the Muslim Empire, did not overtake Christian Europe. Again, this came to a culmination in 1571 when they did take over a Venetian colony on the island of Cyprus. And the Venetians surrendered. And there was a thought, not more than a thought, it was actually an agreement that by surrendering, their people would be safe. And the Muslims reneged on that agreement and instead slaughtered many of the citizens who were in that colony on Cyprus. That was what provoked the fact that something had to be done to stop this incursion into Europe, to preserve Christianity in Europe. And the Pope took the lead in this. It was really difficult to do. I heard the comparison that it was like herding cats. It was trying to get a bunch of different nations which had different ideologies, which were in many ways fighting one another for territory and governance in various areas of Europe, to get them together and say, no, we have to stop this threat from crossing the Mediterranean into Europe. And that was the goal of the Holy League. Now, the Battle of Lepanto took place on October the 7th in 1571. There were over 500 ships of the day that were involved in this battle. And it was the last battle in which ships powered by oarsmen was used, the last major naval battle with oar-powered ships. Many of the oarsmen in the Muslim ships were slaves. They were Christians who had been captured by the Muslims, and they were put to work in slavery manning these ships, rowing them into battle. And so Lepanto was the last major naval battle involving ships that were powered by oars. The Holy League did have one thing. Both navies of the Ottoman Empire and the Holy League were very similar in the wooden ships that they had. But the Holy League had something that was brand new, and they were ships that were called galossus. Not colossus, but galossus. And instead of having cannons mounted just on the front of them, they had built a little turret in the middle. They were wider than the average ship, and they had built a fortified hut, I guess you would call it, that was built of stone in the middle, and they were able to aim cannons from that facing all directions, so that it didn't matter which way your ship was facing, you could fire the cannon. Now, in those days, the battle was still like having a land battle at sea. The main goal was to overtake another ship, to board it, to overpower the occupants of that ship, and to take the ship out of commission. The Holy League, by the way, in the Battle of Lepanto, was able to overtake 130 ships and to take them into captivity. They were also able to free all of the Christian slaves that were on those ships. So a lot of good happened. The Pope had the idea that perhaps the best way to defeat this empire coming against Europe was through the Rosary. And so the Pope commanded really, the Holy League to have all of the sailors, all those involved in the battle, pray the Rosary. And it's said that on the night before the battle, when they were lining up the ships, that the sailors on board the ships of the Holy League knelt on the wooden decks and prayed the Rosary throughout the night in shifts, so that they would be strong in the battle. And even the way they performed or operated in battle, the Holy League formed a cross, and they went into battle with the main beam of the cross going forward and the two side beams coming out with their ships. They had over 280 ships in the Holy League. The Muslims counterattacked by coming towards them with ships, and they attacked in the form of a crescent, coming around like that half-moon battle, and the battle was hard fought. Many, many lives were lost. It was a bloody battle. But in the end, the Christian force, the Holy League, won. And it was credited as a victory because of praying the Rosary, because of the intervention of God. In fact, on the very day of the battle, the ships were going out to sea, the Christian ships from the Holy League, and they were going against the wind. And then suddenly the wind turned 180 degrees, and instead of being a wind blowing towards them, became a wind at their back, blowing them towards the opposing fleet. It was definitely a miracle which was credited, people felt very strongly, to divine intervention. And it was felt that the praying of the Rosary was what had provoked that divine intervention. Very powerfully, the slaves were freed when they were captured. The Holy League managed to overpower the Muslim force. Now, there were no televisions or telegraphs or cell phones or things like that in those days. But it's said that on the morning of October the 7th, as the battle was raging, the Pope in Rome, nowhere within sight of the battle, had a vision. And in the vision, he saw the Christian force conquering the Muslim force, and saw it in such a way that he saw the Blessed Mother giving it as a gift, as a victory. And so it's credited that he established the feast of Our Lady of Victory, later Our Lady of Victories, and later Our Lady of the Most Holy Rosary, because of that battle. 1571, the Battle of Lepanto. Well, it's time for Pasco to come and join us. He brings a message, and obviously, since we talked so much about the Rosary, perhaps we can use the words of the beginning of the Hail Mary. Ave Maria, gratia plena. Hail Mary, full of grace. I think it's still a custom in some of the older countries to say, when you're going to pray for somebody, I'll say an Ave for you. Meaning you're going to say the Hail Mary. You'll offer that particular prayer. So our thought for the day, Ave Maria, gratia plena. Hail Mary, full of grace. She's still with us. She's still very powerful. She's still Our Lady of Victories. God bless you.